Hello, today is Thursday, May 16th, 2019. My name is Daniel Mullany, and behind the camera is Caitlin Yates. Today we are filming a video source inspection for Cytec Process Solutions. We will be viewing a fully refurbished HTC 8010 cassette and box cleaning system. This system has been fully refurbished and it will be shipping to our customer located in the Central California area. So first we're going to walk around the system, describe different parts of it, show the refurbishment job that was completed, and after that we're going to run a process cycle. First we're going to run the rents and we're going to demonstrate the rents. Then when we kick into dry, we're going to cut off the camera because the dry time right now is programmed for about 25 minutes. And we're not going to sit here and just sit and watch and watch it dry. So we'll cut the camera and then turn it back on the last minute and then inspect the product at the end to demonstrate the full product cycle. So let's get started. So first we're going to come over this way. Over here we have our brand new power box. So what we're going to do is just pop this guy open. So that actually EMO'd the system right there. This is built completely brand new by Cytec. We've built several of these now because they're often not included with the systems that we purchase on the resale market. So as you can see here, all the parts are brand new and it looks great. This is a 208 volt system indicated up here. You have all your relays and high voltage connections inside of here. So go ahead and get this guy closed. Okay, and then I'm going to power the system back on. There we go. Now we're coming to the front of the system. Don't have too much space here, but we're making it work. Underneath here, we're going to have the several items. We're going to have the blower that's located on the right side. That item has been rebuilt. We're going to have the DI pump. This item has also been rebuilt. Underneath here we have the air heater, we have the pre-filter, and we have the HEPA filter. That has all been cleaned out. The HEPA filter and the pre-filter are both brand new. The inside of there looks great. It's been sealed up with a new gasket right here, so we can't inspect that without taking off all the screws. Over here we have the MagnaHelix, which have both meters have both been tested. We also have sensors right here to ensure that the system's operating within spec in terms of its exhaust. And then you can't quite see them, but you can see the tubing a little bit. Back there we have all of the DI valves, or the air valves for the CDA or N2, and those all operate the air knives inside the chamber. So under here looks great as well. Next we're going to inspect up top. So now we're going to experience another interlock. When I open this, it should EMO, which it just did. So here in here we have the Omron control system. This area has all been cleaned out and verified for function. As you can see in here, it looks great as well. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and close this. There we go. We'll turn the system back on in a minute. Now we're going to come over here. We actually have to step over. It's a little awkward for the camera there, but we're going to step over and come take a look behind the system really quick. So it's going to be kind of hard to see, but down there is when I showed from the front, the air heater. That's right there. This is the exhaust outlet that's going to be pulling from the chamber. This is what you're going to hook up to your house exhaust. In here we have the DI heater. I'm touching it right now. It's hot because it's at 65 degrees Celsius. It's been sitting here, prepped for and running cycles. Here we have another exhaust chamber. This is not too hot right now because it cooled down a little bit. This is doesn't have water sitting in it at all times like this internal DI water heater does. Back here I can also see that there's all the tubing has been replaced for all the air functions. For whether it's nitrogen or CDA, and the BIMBA cylinders have all been replaced. Over there we have the surfactant tank, and the system looks great. These large cables are coming from the high voltage power supply. So let's get back to the front. Now while Caitlin gets over there, I'm going to go ahead and turn the system back on. The system power is the main power is on the high voltage power box. So now I've turned it on. We're taking a look at some of the timers that we have up here for this tool's simple yet efficient drying and washing and drying functions. So first we have dry temp and water temp. So here's where you can set your temperature. 65°C is the recommended temperature for this system. If you want to change it, you press this button to switch over to the set point. It's at 65. This one's at 65. It's holding at temp. And then you can convert back. So really straightforward temperature settings right there. Next we have the water heater delay timer. This is how long the system will sit in idle before the DI heater will turn off. In order to have efficient wash times, you want to, and efficient throughput, you want to have the system have hot water at all times, unless it's been sitting there for over 4 hours, in which case you don't want to be baking the heater for no reason. Next we have the surfactant timer. This is where you're going to set the amount of time that the surfactant spikes into the wash reservoir for the first wash step. You'll see here they have a wash time right there. So the system basically first washes, then rinses, then dries. And during wash, you need to spike surfactants. That's how long the valve stays open and spikes surfactant into the reservoir. Next, we have the wash time. So that's going to be how long the system cycles the water through. The first one is considered the wash because it has surfactant, and then the second rinse steps are considered rinse because the surfactant at that point has been washed out and you're just rinsing over DI water to get all of your surfactant out of the system. Lastly, you have dry time, so we're looking at 25 minutes and 20 seconds. And that's what our setting is for how long it's going to sit there and turn the air knives inside the chamber and dry everything. Again, simple programming for these. I'll just use this one as an example. If I want to change how many seconds, you just press the button right there and it changes the timer, and now it's programmed. So really easy to use system, really straightforward for its functionality, and an overall really efficient washing system. So now let's take a look inside the chamber. So inside the chamber we have two types of racks here. First we're going to have our box rack. So this is a great rack. It has a lot of versatility for it. You can mount boxes on it like we have here. This is the customer style box. They have 6-inch with a folding hinge and a slide on the front. So this is the customer style box right there. So you simply set it on the rack like this, and it's going to efficiently wash and dry. But you can also wash 8-inch on there. As you can see, it just sits over these mounting positions, or you can wash a variety of other parts in here, whether it's mask holders you can set inside like that, other pieces in here. So it's a really versatile rack that's great for the fab, and yet also efficient with managing throughput. Okay, and on the other side here we have another wash rack. So again, this is going to be a nice design for a rack because it has multiple functionality. Our customer is going to be running 6-inch inside of here, but the flexibility is nice to have for the future. But for maximum throughput, you can stack the cassettes 3 at a time right here. They just need a small spacing between them, and you can load this thing up with 12 total cassettes of any size. So you have nice throughput on this, yet nice flexibility for the future for running different parts. So these are our rack designs that we prefer here at SciTech. All right, so now we're loaded in. Let's take a minute to look inside the chamber as well, actually. So inside the chamber, on the top and the bottom, you're going to have these arms right here. So they're going to spin. Actually, you saw a little DI water actually dribble out of there right there because we were just doing some testing, and that's going to be on both sides. So when the pressure builds from the pump, that is actually what's going to spin these spray arms. They don't have a motor on them or anything like that. It's just the momentum that's built up from the water, excuse me, spraying out of the spray arms. The top has them as well. You can see right there. Now, so these are Delrin hubs that are, let's see, adjust that right there. These are Delrin hubs that are machined by SciTech and replaced as needed, and they have Teflon ball bearings inside of them. So this is looking really good. I'm going to go ahead and close the chamber door now. Oh, and lastly, we have a gasket configuration that's in the edge of the door and here, so it pulls it tight and prevents any water leaking. Okay. Okay, so now you have a couple other indicators that we haven't talked about yet. First, you have a water leak indicator. That's going to let you know if the sensor has been tripped for a water leak under the tool. You have the wash, letting you know you're in the wash step. Rinse if you're in rinse step. Dry if you're in dry step. You have low water if the the float in the back of the system was not met. You have low surfactant if the surfactant tank is not able to dispense. And you have a reset button. Now here's how you run the system. You have an online button to turn the system on, apart from the EMO circuit that we just had to start from the high voltage power box. We also have a dry only button and a cycle start for a normal cycle. So dry only is going to just ignore the washing. That can be used sometimes, or a normal cycle, which we're going to achieve right now. Okay, so we're not doing it. I don't think the camera was over here yet, but that's okay. The surfactant timer went right away, and it spiked the surfactant into the reservoir. So now we're good on that front. Right now, the reservoir is filling with water. So you can kind of keep we don't want to move the camera back around too much, but yeah, and you weren't able to see it, but in the back of the system, you can kind of see it. Essentially, in the back of the chamber, there is a reservoir area, kind of like a bin that fills up with the water and the surfactant. So that's what's happening right now. Before the wash timer starts, there's an area that's filling up, and that's what's going to then cycle through during the wash time. Oh, there we go. And so the float is what tripped and allowed the system to start. You also notice here that the water temp has dropped. That's because the system was refilling water as it was open the valve to flow water into the system. So cold water came into the chamber, but that's going to heat up before we get to the next step. You also notice that the dry temp is starting to rise. That's because the system's starting to warm up the heaters as well for the dry cycle that's going to go. So right here the wash time is going. At this time it's going to get a little bit louder. We don't have the proper exhaust hookup for this system here. It requires a lot of exhaust pull, about 400 CFM from the facilities in the fab. We have blowers hooked up to the system to mimic that. So I'm going to go ahead and turn those on. It's going to get a little louder. All right. So we're looking good. You can see wash is running. The water temp is getting back up towards the 65 C range. And our wash time is almost done right here. All right, bingo. So now we're draining. You can see we're in wash still, and it's draining inside the chamber. Okay, so right now inside the chamber, it's draining and refilling. And again, it knows to start because there's a float in the back of the reservoir, and when the float reaches the set point, which is how high it floats up, that's when the system kicks over. So here we go, now we're in rinse. So it finished draining because the float in the back then sank down low enough so it realized that it drained, and now it's filling again for rinse to start. All right, and just like last time, it should be hitting its fill set point any minute now. There we go. And now the system is going through its pre-programmed rinse cycle. So where you can program in the wash time, you cannot program in the rinse time. The system has a pre-programmed in duration for rinse that allows it to rinse off all of the surfactant that might be, or surfactant spiked DI that might be residual in the chamber after the first run, because there's absolutely going to be. So there you go. So now it just did a rinse right there. It's now going to drain out that surfactant spiked water that was kind of lingering in the chamber. There's still going to be more left, so it's going to step into, I believe, another 2 rinse cycles, but let's observe the system and see how this goes. So I'm actually in the back of the system right now. You can't see me with the camera, but I'm taking a look at the drain, and the water is flowing out absolutely normal. I just put my hand near the drain and it's quite warm, the water flowing out, and that's exactly what we expect. And I just saw the drain actually stop flowing, so that's how I know that the system is now filling again in the back of the chamber. Another good way to know the system's in fill is the water temperature. Every time the water temperature drops, the system is filling. And it's because as we discussed earlier, it's when the cold DI water is filling back into the heating chamber, it's going to lower the temperature. So now we are rinsing again. Feel the system vibrating a little bit from the violent rinse that's going on the inside. There's a really strong amount of rinse and agitation on the inside of the chamber. All right, I'm taking another step back, make sure everything is looking good. Yep, and as expected, the system is draining the DI water out. All right, we should be moving into another rinse step here, I believe, but it may jump over to dry. Well, there's our indicator. The DI temperature is dropping, so the system is filling filling the DI heater chamber with more cold water, and therefore filling the reservoir in the back of the chamber with the hot water. And there we go. Okay, now just like the wash, we have a flashing indicator that we have completed the rinse step. So now we're moving on to dry. So, there we go. You can hear the system kind of kicking on. I can hear the blower starting, so it's actually kicking on into the dry time. We haven't finished rinse yet though, because it's still draining out the back. I'm sure if I step back here, yep. I can see that we're still draining out the DI reservoir in the back, and pretty soon the dry timer will kick on. There we go. We are now completed with rinse and we are in dry, and the dry time timer has commenced. So at this point there is nothing to do except for have the system really move the air knives back and forth on the inside. We've confirmed all their function. You can see that the dry temperature temperature controller here is rising. It's up to 40, 41 already. it will hit 65 per the set point, and that's where it's going to spend most of the time running. I just heard one of the air night zones kick on, so this guy is up and running now, or up and moving towards the final product of dried cassettes and boxes. So at this point is when we're going to take a pause from the video. Caitlin and I are going to set a timer on our own to come back and get this guy back online before the dry time is complete. And that was quick. The system is now finishing up the very end. So we've got 30 seconds left of dry time before we're going to be wrapping this guy up. So as you can see, it looks similar to where we were before, but the dry time is now up to 64 degrees, 63. Kind of sits close to that 65 mark because of the air that's flowing over it and cooling it by a little bit. We got 13 seconds left of dry time, still in dry, cycle start, looking good. So the next step is going to be a cool down step. It's gonna have to sit here for a little bit. There we go. So right now it's flashing dry. It should have a cool down right here for about a minute. For the HTC series of equipment for the box washers, Cytec not only provides high quality refurbished systems to the market, but we can also provide a refurbishment for your existing tool. If you're having issues with your box washers, send it in and we will refurbish it for you. And we also provide 100% of the spare parts and services needed for you. So any spare part we have for this, we have the spray hubs, we have rebuild kits for the motors and pumps, we can rebuild the motors for you, we have solenoid valves, a variety of parts needed. So controller parts. If you are down on a part, give us a call and we'll help you get back up and running. All right, so we are sitting in the cool down time as I talked about. Chamber is nice and warm. You can tell it's been running well. Just walked around to the back. Everything looks good over there. There we go. So now we have our indication that the system has completed its run. Oh, first we gotta acknowledge that we are complete. That's how you reset it. Now let's take a look in the chamber. Ooh, it's nice and hot. First I'm gonna slide out the box rack. Here we have the boxes, everything looks great. Boxes are nice and dry and hot. Okay, there we go. Now let's take a look at the cassettes. Cassettes are also nice and dry, look great. Both the top and the bottom rack. Great, so this is a successful run. All right. Thank you for taking the time to view our video source inspection for today. Again, my name is Daniel Mullany and I filmed this source inspection for Cytec Process Solutions. To visit us or to view more of our product listing, please visit our website at www.cytecprocess.com. That's spelled S-I-T-E-K. Or give us a call at 916-797-9000. And to reach me directly, dial extension 2201. Thank you very much and have a great day.